Hi, and welcome to the November Verse Virtual featuring Michelle Bidding and Susan Rich. I'm sure we're in, as always, for a wonderful reading and a wonderful open mic. And we welcome you, whether you're here in person or listening later on our video, which you can find at the Verse Virtual 2024 webpage under events, and there's a full archive of all of our past readings as well, which is well worth dipping into when you have a chance. I will go ahead and introduce our first reader. Michelle Bidding is the author of 6 poetry collections, including Nightmares and Miracles, winner of the Wilder Prize, and named one of Kirkus Review's 2022 Best of Indie. Her chapbook, Dummy Ventriloquist, was published in July 2024 by CNR Press. Recent poetry appears on the Slowdown, Thrush, Cleaver, Missouri Review. The Poetry Society of New York's Milk Press, Catamaran, Swim, is featured as poetry poem of the week in Missouri Review. Bidding is writing a novel that centers around Los Angeles and her great-grandmother, stage and screen actor Beryl Mercer, and is senior lecturer in creative writing and literature at Loyola Marymount University.
Hi, thank you so much for that introduction, Robbi. So generous for you to have us here, and a real honor and pleasure to be reading with Susan Rich, whose work I deeply admire. And I'm so glad we're here listening to poems and sharing poems that people have written. It's a hopeful thing at the end of a very, very, very difficult week. So I'm going to be reading some love poems and some political poems, although really everything is political at this point. So I don't even need to say that. This first poem is called, I'm reading from my brand new chapbook, Dummy Ventriloquist. And my son, Emmett Abrams, created the cover. So I just wanted to say that as well. And he's gonna show up in my poems today, a few times. For Phil. All day, we've bent like Benedictine monks over armoires and bookshelves, rubbing the house clean of grime and wicked thick dust, pausing but once to drop our robes and oil each other bright as snakes entwined in the grass of our sun-bolted bed. You never left me, or the strange world of my childhood I carry like a mourner on my back, never quite able to set the black box down and leave it behind without turning back to turn it around. 3 decades, I've waited to jump the suicide train, my family tracks like a runaway beneath coastal starlight. A Southern Cross I note and bind in books stretched from ghost smoke, like a cigarette I wish I had, but I'm trying not to do that because I like my body when it's with your body. 2 strands of the same high voltage cable holding me damp and sparking day or night against the green skin of the dark. And that poem, I have to give some nods to obviously E. Cummings and also Joseph Millar. This poem is after Frank O'Hara and his poem Ave Maria. I don't know what you're up to, America, but what I do know, it's not good for the body. Children need fresh air and Ave Maria over their flesh, their choice of friends, the theater of their identity that is so complex, no single man from Florida, the real sinner here, can decide. If you ask me, what are you up to, America? Criticizing how souls dress on a Saturday, who they are, who they hold hands or play hooky with in movie theaters. No one needs the Hail Mary of running to faraway streets, preyed on by God knows what. Mothers, you are glamorous countries. It costs you everything not to keep the peace, not to keep hate from taking the hearts of humans you love. Wasn't your first sexual experience a blessed box of chocolates stirred into gratuitous barrels of buttered popcorn? And if it wasn't, I am sorry. Oh, mothers, there are many bridges between heaven and earth, built of strange and wonderful colors. Only the empty, the greedy for gravy on TV, a dark growth campaigning on the innocent. It's unforgivable, the latter. Can't see them, mothers, and I mean fathers, sisters, brothers, grandfathers, uncles, cousins, aunts, grandmothers, friends, and the entire United State of nurturing tolerance. You don't want your tykes hanging around their rooms, broken in your yards. There is no joy in that particular darkness. Who is to blame? If you don't take this advice and they're no longer here, only embossed silver people, the images and photographs you talk to when you're old because you wouldn't let them be, wouldn't let them have, love who they were when they were young. I messed up the end of that poem. You get the message. Okay. An exercise in love. So this poem is in sort of after Diane de Prima and her poem, An Exercise in Love. I was remembering with Gail over coffee in Topanga how I used to choke up thinking about my son's transition, about the dresses of many colors no longer needed. We'd slipped like pretty fish from their wires inside his closet's unlit shell and floated to a thrifty coastal store. I suppose there are moments together, inhaling a favorite indie film or albacore rolls at an LA eatery, when I've caught the eyes of strangers squinting at him from behind their pebbly centerpieces, like stunned sea anemones when the sun pokes a socket of clouds and muscles them open, blessing a sun's sacred face that is pure moonstones and cherubs and green hills and heron feathers, little sea grass tufts woven on the edge of his chin's pocked shore due to regular hormone injections. I suddenly understand how confused we all are. How utterly wrong we've gotten it thus far, us dinosaurs, us old barges, backwards in our dreams of absolute gender and pleasure. Gail nods across the altar of our canyon table, and I follow her eyes as I lift a toasted slice to my lips, seeded with pomegranate. Sigh a cool scarf of breath into my cup's hot shade. She understands. My son I have is just Emmett, gifting us truth and all-knowing in Hebrew, holy universal in a distant German tongue, though my mouth is saying just Emmett, over and over Emmett, the smell of his hair, weaving the wind, the color of dawn, Emmett, entirely himself, his name, his own. And if you know that poem by Diane de Prima, there are a number of words and phrases in that poem from her poem. Okay. Two more poems. Does that sound good, Robbi?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you have till 11:15.
Okay, that's perfect then.
Mhm.
All right, reporting back. When the men and women became bully monsters, backed by scum, bent to fetch golf balls off the green and rolling in ink from the slough, when few read print anymore, scrolling the nets and threatening to take it all, including your baby's milk bottle and last biscuit, we thought the headless horseman riding our direction less terrifying. Who says decapitation is all bad anyway? Those free-floating cabezas, ancient, adrift on song-strung shores, are always ready to party. Their salvage seas, their mystical gowns, sewn with so much to teach about disruption, the merit of dreams hauled back from. We should have drowned this time. We should be married to air, in love with mystery and fish, the heroed dark, the matches struck to keep multitudes fed, the heart swilled inside the surfing eye and risen lining, the tides we keep climbing up the belly of the whale. Sorry, I had to read that one. I wrote that during the last passage with the coming leadership. All right, I'm going to end with this poem. It's a little bit longer, and it's called Ode to My Son's Birthmark. And he went through lymphoma last year, and he's completely clear and fine, and has a full-time job at Warner Brothers Pictures Animation now. So, and he's the one that did the cover. I have two sons. I write about them quite a bit, my family, and yeah. So here we go. Ode to My Son's Birthmark. Stork bite, angel kiss, salmon patch of blush epidermis, pink palm print pressed to the back of your head and hidden until you merged with the light outside my insides, summer flooding the hospital room in the city of St. Monica, patron of mothers and famous for cheering son Augustine along his fraught, illustrious path. And isn't the world just like that? Mothers versus death since forever, as we've followed it in history books and life. And certainly since you arrived on this planet so breathtakingly artful in its design on evils and delights, on miracles and mayhem, and shame on us, and on me forgetting your skull cap's masterpiece, the field of Rorschach strawberry where I'd plant my lips so often, letting your follicle fragrance fill me, a grace-given thing, this infant essence, fecund and flesh-scented, the bread of stars if they could exhale like animals, like the breath of heaven, really. Then the unseen illness, the taking of pictures, the requisite shearing of locks grown long in your young adulthood. I saw it. The good friends flying in with their weed and spirits, their laughter and raucous playlists, the ceremony of love your goofy lot performed. First braiding, then snipping, then shaving your head to its nubby minimum so the chemo could not get there first. That fucking devil we bless and curse as it snaked its orange burn around your body in the coming weeks and months, and how the shearing brought the mark into view, the rouge kiss of a long-lost lover peeking through your homemade beanie, knit by a family friend from the church we don't visit anymore, not even on holidays or to pray in pews under stained glass. Those ocular openings in the neo-Gothic vein since medieval Chartres, where divinity streams through. Oh, you brave and worthy knight, your body a cathedral, your bones holy relics humming the hymns of coming health, And weren't we the ones back when, always first to the healing rail, our heads bowed to receive the woo-woo spirit, where most were too proud or embarrassed to kneel or believe, but we knew that the things worth knowing are not the things we know. And when God is gone, it means church is everywhere, and water might turn to wine, and stones to gold. And the greatest moment in the service was when everything stopped, and the veil of words dropped like a curtain of hair falling, and the people turned to touch each other, saying, "Peace be with you, and also with you." Their trembling hands a little like newborn roses opening to morning after the shadow of night has passed. Thank you so much.
That was a beautiful feature. Thank you so much for coming and for reading today.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And you're welcome to come back. And every month, we always have something interesting going on, although the days are unpredictable. But
Yes, the
if you
days
keep
are
up,
unpredictable.
they're going to become even
Title
more
of my
so.
next poem.
There you go. Thank you again. Let me find I've put in Michelle's webpage in a link in the chat, so you can look for it in there if you were here in time to see it. Otherwise, you can Google it. Just a minute. Our next reader, our second reader today, is Susan Rich. She's the author of 6 books of poetry, most recently Blue Atlas, and has co-edited 2 prose anthologies. She's received fellowships from a number of places, among them Fulbright Foundation and the Peace Corps, and has worked for Amnesty International, helped to supervise elections in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and trained human rights workers in Gaza and the West Bank. The kind of person we need cloned at this point. Go ahead, Susan.
Okay, thank you so much. So thank you all for being here. I don't think I've ever felt more strongly that poets are my tribe and that this is a time for us to be together. So I really appreciate you being here. And I once heard Terence Hayes say at a reading at the Skagit Poetry Festival, if you know what poem you're starting with and you know what poem you're ending with, then the rest will turn out okay. So I'm taking him at his word there. So here we go. And I'm starting with a poem. I don't know if I've ever read this at a reading. I'm kind of in this mood of, so many of us of being a little discombobulated and wanting to do something different. So this is my sister's favorite poem of mine. And I have to say, when she told me that, I was insulted, which tells you a lot about the way we relate to each other. It seems so simple, so basic. It's called American History. Someday soon I'll be saying at school there were chalkboards. At school we read books made of paper. We drank milk from small cartons. We drew. At school, we met children unlike us, studied evolution, enjoyed recess, plenty of food. At school, we made globes of paper mache, built solar systems, democratized in sugar cubes. At school, we sang harmonies of Lennon, McCartney. We were cool. Collected pennies for children in Biafra, Bangladesh, and Timbuktu. There were teachers of Plato, King, and Kennedy, all paid for by taxpayers, supporting an ordinary American school. I don't think I take any of that for granted anymore. As Robbi said in the introduction, I spent some time in Gaza in 1996, which was a moment of peace. It was right after the Oslo Peace Accords, and it was the first time that Palestinians were allowed to come up with their own educational agenda in the schools. So could teach human rights, but hadn't done that before. And so I was brought in as an Amnesty International worker who taught human rights education. So I'm going to read a poem from that time. I don't think there's anything else you need to know. If so, I'll remember it after I finish reading the poem. That's my way. It's called Double Exposure. Get in, Omar motions, and that's how it happens. The last tendril of hope caught in the door slam, the comet of exhaust, the kilometers expanding as Samir flies along Gaza's last highway. No watermelon vendors, no farmers, no women for me to signal and say, Salam alaikum, shukran. In the front seat, two men in the darkest of sunglasses laugh and argue in Arabic, and it's depressingly clear they're discussing me. I consider the road's dirt shoulder, velocity divided by speed, my body ribboned to red. And how awkward if I could even open the door, if I found my will frozen, my courage asleep. An old sentence beats its rhythm in my ear. They want to throw us into the sea, into the sea. The story I learned from my grandmother's neighbor. I was 7 and she an Auschwitz survivor. And then there is silence. It's all been decided. To the east of us, a kind of dreamscape fades in, like a foreign film's slow establishing shot. Sand the color of cloud, turquoise surf, filtered light. And we pull up in a mall-sized parking lot. Tell your friends next year we will build foreign hotels, restaurants, discotheques, room for your dog pets. I nod and smile. Dog hotels. Yes. We take off our shoes. The men point. Suzanne, Suzanne, take a picture of me. Which will you marry? I shoot them on the shoreline, shoot their backs against the postcard sea, their arms clasped around each other. Young men, again, laughing. So I did spend 2 weeks in Gaza and the West Bank, and it was a life-changing experience. I'd never been treated so well in any trip I'd ever taken. I'm going to read one more poem that's not from Blue Atlas. It's from the book to come, which I don't know what it's called yet, but anyway, the poem I do know the title of. Actually, I've just changed my mind on which one. That's really scary when you do that, like mid suggestion. This is what I wanted. It's called Praise the World to the Angel. I want a prayer that lifts the color of morning glories into their own cathedral of light, that welcomes the waft of coffee and the back alleys muraled with memory. I'd die to relive. Tonight, I plan to write out a prayer to the lipsticked woman in a threadbare coat, scarf shimmering over her shoulders, attuned to whatnots and wonders. Almond joys for everyone. In my prayers, each proclamation of the text arrives in gold dust, assuring that each of us must present our better selves, saying thank you, you're welcome, and Gesundheit, offering a piece of warm banana bread and a bowl of blueberries. This is the moment where we are all citizens, blueberries for everyone, muffins and prize-winning galettes, no tears or tear gas in my country. Just the sound of hip sways and cellar doors, the pine siskins chanting each to each, the coil of cats wrapped up in their own prayers of pollock snacks and jasmine, because every prayer needs jasmine, and a small promise Herosis wishes that perhaps the angel could answer if we sing to her sweetly enough. So that's the prayer for what we need right now that just popped up of the book. I was not planning on reading that poem at all, but it wanted to be read. It's kind of cool when that happens. So now I am going to transition to my book that came out in spring of 2024, which is somehow still this year, Blue Atlas by Red Hen Press, which it's always helpful, I think, when I go to a reading, if I don't know the person's work, to know a little bit about it. So this is a book that takes at the center a coerced midterm abortion I had in my 20s. And it took me 10 years to write. I'll start with a poem called Arborist/abortionist. And I became obsessed with the connection of those two words, which isn't connected etymologically. Arborist, abortionist. Procured by anxious relatives who demand a disappearing trick. Prepaid like a surcharge for yard work done in the off-season. His steel tool severing a quirk of a tree limb attached to the nub of a stubborn bud. The doctor didn't question how I appeared transplanted into his waiting room, never inquired as to the co-author of my infinitesimal text, although he'd memorized its map, extracted the troublesome little branch that obscured the golden overlook and restored the river view. There's a poem by Sylvia Plath about pregnancy. And I think you sort of have to figure it out as you read the poem, what she's talking about, what she's writing about, an extended metaphor. And since my book is more about abortion than it is pregnancy, I'm just gonna say you can probably figure out what this metaphor is. And the poem is called Metaphor after Sylvia Plath. 3 syllables. 1 stressed. Unfinished dance step, unripe mango, an infinitesimal bean sprout, cut back to a nub. The interrupted battle of bullfight and God, the abandoned ballroom, abeyant moon, conundrum of choice, no choice. Watermelon seedlet, scalpel shaving, thick mead. Hello, turned off oven, confused stork. I am your desired, your dreaded, almost, blue atlas and weeping willow. The past seen ahead, the necessary tomorrow. So Blue Atlas is the name of the book, and I guess it's probably helpful to understand that it's also a tree. It's Blue Atlas is a cedar tree, the strongest, most resilient of all the cedar trees, and it originated in Morocco, but has moved around the world and is also very present in the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest where I live. So plus, I really like the color blue, as you can tell from my blue background. I'm going to read from two longer poems. I think I've realized recently that you don't need to hear the whole poem when I read it. It just feels like too hard. So I'm going to read you sections from Post-Abortion Questionnaire powered by SurveyMonkey. And I'll also say for writers who are looking for prompts, there are questionnaires about basically anything you can imagine and things you can't imagine online. And so if you have a subject that's difficult to write about, you might want to see if there's a questionnaire about that. I got the idea for this poem from a poem by Oliver de la Paz. He has a poem questionnaire. Oh, am I really going? I should read my own notes, because then I thought I had it by heart, but it's different when you have something by heart and you're looking at so many people. Oliver de la Paz's autism questionnaire, and just thought it was a brilliant idea to take kind of more straight language and respond to it. So I'll try to pause. I think you'll know which is the question and what is the answer. And I'll read a couple of these, and then I'll close with one other poem. Post-abortion questionnaire powered by SurveyMonkey. Do you feel reluctant to talk about the subject of abortion? In the center of the ceiling, a marigold weeps, or perhaps it's an old chandelier. Look, inside there is another worldly glow, shards illuminated in violet pink and layers of peeling gold leaf. Such minds at night unfold. Have you found yourself either avoiding relationships or becoming overly dependent on them since the abortion? If I could unhinge myself from myself, attach to bookshelves, sever my tongue, I would watch as it grew back, rejuvenated and ready to speak. Do you sometimes have nightmares, flashbacks, or hallucinations relating to the abortion? Never mind, I tell myself, it's only a nightmare. But then I remember I'd barely gone to bed at all. Then 30 years had passed, then 31. Did your relationship to or concept of God or karma or fate change after your abortion? If my own voice falters, tell them I tried not to live inside the clock or under the skin of pomegranates. Does anyone escape her own story? Head-on collision, northeaster, earthquake, the racist seeding of our own country. I kind of like excerpting my own work. It's kind of a weird thing to do because, you know, you work so hard on your own work, but I also feel like it's important for you as an audience to just get a taste of something. And if you like it, you can go and find it. This is the last poem I'll read. It's also the last poem of Blue Atlas. And I think it's maybe helpful, especially for writers, to know I'm playing with time in this poem. I'm not sure I knew that at the time, but this book has 3 different time periods. It has a young girl trying to figure out what the hell love is. It has a 20-something woman coming to terms with an abortion and all of the ripples that come out of that. And then it has an older woman, I don't know who she might be, looking back at it. So this poem has a little bit of each of those women / girls. Attempting speculative fiction. There's a space inside of me like a treehouse topped with wisteria vine. The windows point like a compass to my second self, where S strides in past globes and oceans, walks up to the bar, says whiskey neat without the please, says nothing about sorrow. I listen from somewhere far away as she holds the floor with her bookish looks. She's an actor or a double agent, all 5-car stud, chiseled cheekbones, and hope. Yet here in my house with triple locks and wireless alarms, my mortgaged heart, I wonder, how will she get home? What catastrophe might follow? I write down the 1,000 different things the world might do and then erase them to the young girl who walked out, who did not lock the door. Thank you.
Amazing. Two beautiful features. Thank you so much. And I'm so happy you read together. I think your poems worked together very well. Okay. I did put a link to Susan's page. I hope it's the right one. It's the first one that came up. So it should be in the chat there somewhere among the many comments, which you might have a look at, Susan. But Susan's going to read again shortly for Poetry Salon. When is that? Can you remind me? Well, anyway,
I'm not sure. I
I'll,
don't think
I'm going to post that on my page anyway when it's advertised, and so you folks can sign up. But I'm not sure what month it is, but it's coming up one of these days. All right, we'll start with the open mic then, and we ended up with a full contingent after all that. So our first reader is Marc Petri.
Wow, I'm a little choked up. I'm working on a novel that features abortion, so um, I'm going to be picking up your book of poems. And Michelle, as always, my God, what a voice! Um, I just want to say also that I'm a teacher, and many of my students are illegal aliens. And I know there's many teachers in our audience today, and the mental health of our students is so important right now. I'm taking extra time to ask my students when they come in the classroom if they're okay, and I'm getting a lot of no's. So we really have to focus on that. Just a thought. This is something I wrote today after hearing that Dorothy Allison died, and Dorothy was one of the people who sort of formed my fiction. She said that the job of the American novelist was to give voice to the voiceless, and she certainly did that, and it's a credo I try to live by. So this is a poem about a voice to myself and other people who have been abused. I was a sparrow child hatched from her belly. He did not know she engaged in extramarital copulation, believed me to be his son, taken by my perfect brown wings, the way my long feet balanced on a maple tree's limb. My daddy's mind, warped in the Great War, heard my chirping as enemy flak, believing himself to be under attack, flung me off the limb. My head rung as it hit the tree. I loved him with my fuzzy bird brain. This is what daddy's birds do, I said. And when his beak pecked between my legs, my youthful remorse remained quite vague. My mother didn't want her fledgling to fly. She broke my wing one warm, windless day, told me I was to blame for all her pain. My desire to fly was my shame. My wing mended, I flew in rickety fledgling flight, my brain rewired until at last I perceived sparrowhawk wings diving in dreams, accompanied by the sound of a beak pecking, pecking away at me. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Mark. That's strong stuff. Sean, you're on next.
Okay. The first poem is called Herculaneum. Wakened and up again on my traipse across our room to the throne of being. In the light of wee hours, our sleepover granddaughter slumbers in her shallow blow-up bed at our feet. We might as well be afloat in rafts lashed together upon a quiet ocean. My wife, undersea in her apparatus, and two dogs lay curled in frozen attitudes of sleep, as if catastrophe had already struck, left us extinguished and motionless in our dreams, our coverlets, the fine dust of memory of what perished into this tragic loveliness called life. Not even the newest of us can survive. Thank you. And this is called Another. Again, I could foolishly tell how it began, the gilded moment of clearing for hands of dawn, withdrew from its chiffonier, a throw to unfold, shake out, and spread upon the chilly land. And overhead, beyond lovemaking and a night's sleep, as if just in reach of a naughty child, there in soft gray bistre and pink, fingerprints on the walls of a brightly sealed room, where with all earthly things arrived the unbeckoned day. Thank you.
Thank you
That's all.
for reading. Thank
That's-
you. Our next reader is Mary McCarthy.
Okay. I'd like to thank everybody for the work that they've shared with us today. And we do need to support each other in these dark times. Okay, this first poem has actually found a home. It's going to be in the next issue of Earth's Daughters. It's called Phoenix and Crow. I have been Phoenix, rising again and again from her own ash, a splendid creature of flash and fire, a one and only miracle who wears her splendor with a proud abandon, offers no excuses, depends on transformation, surviving every conflagration, has the habit of resurrection, refuses chains and blocks of concrete meant to sink and stop her. A master of audacity, the glam flash of more is more, adorned by all the shine and pulse of her own combustion, returning glorious and impossible, re-emerging, surging back from every swallow of the black hole there at the center of the galaxy, irresistible as the drain in the shower floor, yet flaring back, expanding like a neon universe, learning to breathe again and again, triumphant and alive. But now I've gone to Crow, an ordinary sight, whose bright eye and quick mind remembers every enemy, treasures the irregular rare friend, has no use for excuses, does not rise from ash, but wears her ashy coat the way a hot coal does over the red hot heart, all black, but gleaming full of blue and purple sheen, iridescent even in ordinary light, both thief and donor, gifting her chosen with trinkets and tokens, sometimes a loud member of the occasional murder, but sufficient to herself, comfortable alone, able to live on anything available, no need for particulars or fancy dishes. She can survive on carrion or sweet corn, scorning foolish scarecrows in her way, in love with tricks and riddles. She polishes her wings on the sun and rises laughing from every test and trap, splendid in her elemental blacks. And I hope we will all rise. Thank you.
That we will not burn.
And we will not burn.
Thank you so much, Mary. Penelope, it's your turn.
Hi, thank you for all the poetry this morning. I'm really happy to finally hear Susan Rich read. Wanted to hear her for a long time, and also really happy to have the introduction to Michelle Bidding's work. I'm going to read a poem called The Moon Woman Dreams of Pluto, November 2016. After the election, I woke in sorrow night after night, wondering what would happen to the earth, the air and waterways, bees and wolves and newts, with no one strong enough to say their health means as much as ours, that our health means on theirs. Day after day, I dragged up out of bed, feeling a close relative had died. All I could do was add a little color to a drawing before I went to work. Dwarf planet Pluto and its 5 moons above a golden camel, a white rabbit, a gray moon woman rattle. Crescent eyes, strong nose, crooked lips open as if to gasp or speak. And the second poem, I was going to read something else quite serious, but I've just changed my mind. I'm going to read a very short, light poem. Food. When I sleep too long, my cat gnaws the cover of the topmost book in the stack of poetry beside the reading chair, because he's seen how long I stare at what's inside and knows there's something tasty there.
I love that. Thank you so much, Penelope. You can always count on your cats to turn up in a poem sooner or later. Our next reader is Simona.
Hi, thank you. Well, first of all, thanks to all the readers for organizing this. And this week I was struck on, how differently, we voice what we feel. And I just thought I would read a poem that was actually published in Verse Virtual in September. Somehow it just feels very, right now. It's called Right. Like the squad is about to hear fire and you too staring down the gun's barrels. Like a washing machine loaded with ink in the bleach dispenser. Like fire ants are feasting on you. Like the sunset you're ignoring won't be sunrise again, ever. So your mother disapproves. She will anyway, in person or nightmare. Like you know what you're doing, but not totally and only rarely. Like Cassandra, lone believer in her stories. Like a spider weaving its net from spine to spine of a barrel cactus. In the early morning, dewdrops hang. Leave a crack for water to trickle out, turn into a creek, a river flowing to embrace the ocean. The mouth is not where the river ends, nor where the ocean begins. It's where water is. And I leave it at that for today. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you so much. Our next to last, no, got a couple more. David Oliveira. So it's 2 poems or 5 minutes, whichever comes first.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank the readers. I thank you, Robbi, for organizing this. My first poem is called Light and Burn. At some point in life, perhaps as soon as now, a person comes to the realization that nothing more will come of it from this life they cherish. For some, it's a crushing moment, evidence of a defeat they long suspected, which earth doles out piecemeal over pained stretches of time. For others, it's an embrace of life's vicissitudes, which earth manifests into random gifts of revelation and fulfillment. For all, life is an enigma from the first moment of memory to the last moment of awareness. As a child, I often walked into warm night and looked to the as yet unspoiled summer sky. I fell in love with stars, with their endless beauty. Since the first, I venerated their company, found solace within our shared destinies. Each discovery deepens awe and mystery, their light, our promise, their burn, our future. But these are words, only words, innocent as the cry of a newborn. No sorrow huddles captive inside their morphemes and phenomemes. No unbearable grief weeps into their melodies. No grief at all. Whatever sadness has come already exists within the house of the heart. Words only maps to rooms where they're kept. This poem is called Stars, and I guess a kind of a continuation of that one. Every morning I wake to a different landscape, a day born like all before, yet unlike any other. Hope hugs earth's curve, the odd chance virtue prevails, worth risking one more time. In spring, when weather and spirit allow, I spend morning among wildflowers in a field near my home. The flowers have names, none of which I bothered to learn. They're blossoms enough. Even as a child, whenever I looked up to watch stars emerge one by one from the shade of twilight, I felt embraces radiate out of their silent anthems and our common history. I've now given up ever knowing anything. Even so, my eyes lift to them, those famous incandescences. My whole life happens under their light, whether they're still there or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next to last reader is Jim.
Okay. October was my birth month, and I've made a project / fun piece for me over the last several years of opening opportunities for my friends to give me a prompt to write a poem to. And since it was my birthday, one of my friends says, well, since you're 73, why don't you write a poem in 73 lines about your life?
Okay.
Not to be overly specific, but I took that challenge. So this is one of the longer poems that I've written, but it's still not that long. It's called My Life in 73 Lines. though not in chronological order, because that is not how I think, nor how I remember events. There was the broken arm and the needle, which amused my father but not me, a much too frequent thing. High school, Marcia and I were talking, just the two of us in my VW Bug, and she said, "I'd like to kiss you right now," which I wanted more than anything and didn't dare. I still don't know what stopped me, maybe the fear of all that might follow. School was a haven and a nightmare. So many books to read, and I did instead of playing sports. I never had the body or the skills, but I had brains on brains and more. Best verbal assassin in every class. Sheep Springs was the place where my father tried to escape his life of being under someone else's thumb. So he took us with him to live in sagebrush and sand, 50 miles from everywhere. I never learned more than a few words of Navajo, but I learned that Navajo boys are just as cruel as any others when they find someone smaller and different, meaning me. While school jocks lettered in every available sport, I sang, went to all state choir competitions, lettered in chorus. I still have the sweater with the big orange treble clef sewed on with pride, worn like a target for a tight end who couldn't put 4 words together in a sentence, but he could punch. Oh, the escape to college was so welcome until I figured out that freshmen are just high school seniors with less restrictions and more ways to get in trouble. There was that one roommate, though, who cared and offered to teach me basketball in exchange for guitar lessons. That part was cool. Hours at the outdoor court by the dorms, he coached layup after layup, fed me the ball, and cheered for every success, every small success. 2 years a missionary in France. The language wasn't as hard as the people, superficially polite, angry and arrogant under that. Except the old people, the ones who remembered the liberation that swept across the land once Normandy was retaken. Those old people couldn't do enough to tell me what it had meant. Stories and food were their stock in trade for gratitude. Then home and college and Spanish classes. Later getting married and then nursing school and children. 5 now grown and mostly gone. I settled in California by choice. Settled into this place where I've spent more than half my life, though I confess I still say that I'm from New Mexico. Would I go back for more than just a visit? I don't think so. But I know not to say never again too loudly, just like I never say it can't get any worse, because it often does before it gets better. Old men are full of memories and regrets, triumphs and smiles, and tears, all wrapped up in an aging body and mind that are somehow not ready to let go, give in, give up. Even at 73, they are still useful, or so I am told. So I am told.
Thank you. Thank you for your 73 definitive lines. And I love your color. I'm going to end this reading with a couple of poems. One that was taken by swim yesterday. I've been waiting to hear for some time. And it's called Watching Noodle Making Videos on YouTube. It has an epigraph, Ars longa, vita brevis. The noodle master, Peter Song, once said, a chef must make 100 bowls of noodles a day, all by hand, to learn the craft, to knead the pyramid of flour and water from a pile of disparate dust till it comes together in a ball, until it shines. To stretch and pull it, twist it into a rope, an umbilicus pulsing with life. Only then can the chef bring it down hard onto the butcher block like a cat of nine tails. Whack it till it separates into strands, long fibers that weren't there before. It doesn't matter how many times I watch it. I can't see how it's done. He doesn't estimate how many pounds of flour, how many hours and days I will need to stand over this table before the noodles finally unfold in my hand, spring to life in the roil of the steaming water, tender as clouds. Maybe I'll just end there. Thank you. And now I'm going to stop the recording. And if you'd like to chat or ask any questions, please do.